We're good to start, Idahosa, if you want. When you're ready.
All right, guys, we're going to go ahead and get started.
Can we just shout out some languages that people are studying, already know?
Russian.
Russian, I heard you guys are familiar. Chinese.
Arabic.
Arab.
French. Did you say? Spanish.
Okay, I started Spanish, everybody said Arabic. Spanish, French, Portuguese. Swedish. You guys have a Swedish class here?
No.
You guys have your own?
Yeah.
Okay, cool. And a lot of people don't really see the value of pronunciation training, of ear training. So there's two ways you can look at it. First, if you have a broken car, right? And say your Taiwanese is just broken, right? And you can't understand why, not you. So, why can't I understand people? Why can't I speak to these people, right? What I'm going to try to convince you is that hearing pronunciation training might be the solution to your problem, might fix your language, fix your car, right? Other angle is okay, maybe it's good enough, it's getting to point A, but you can pimp it out, right? Make your car way better. So it's one thing if people can understand you when you're speaking. It's a whole different category if people, if you sound just the way that they do, right? If you can convince them that you're a speaker, it's a very different experience when you're interacting with native speakers of that language. So that's what that's about. I actually had something for this, but all right. So imagine you just, let's just say someone said Swedish, right? Imagine you're walking down the streets of Stockholm, right? And you know every single Swedish word that was ever invented from the Vikings times, okay? And you're walking down the street and you know this, you can read and write perfectly. But you have these noise canceling headphones on over your ears, right? So whenever people talk to you, it's just now you know the words, but you can't hear them, right? You can't understand something if you can't hear it. Before you understand, you must hear it. By the same token, you're walking around, you have a Swedish typical food. I can't think of what Swedes eat. Alright, perfect. Alright, you walk around with your noise canceling headphones and a mouthful of Swedish meatballs. Right? And once again, you know all the words ever invented in Swedish history, right? But you're talking to people, you're right? You can't speak. They won't understand you. Why? Because you have something blocking your mouth. You can't pronounce, right? Before you can speak, you must pronounce. So, you go to the next slide. All right, so what am I getting to right now? Why do people always have these problems when learning a foreign language? Well, there's three aspects to any language. You have reading and writing, understanding and speaking, and hearing and pronunciation, right? Now, what do? Look at a baby and what are they doing? They're practicing their pronunciation. They're immersed in the environment. They're learning to hear all the different sounds of the language, learning to create it with their mouth. And then, once they're able to kind of pronounce the basics, then they start saying words like mama, papa, monkey, right? Then they move into the understanding and speaking phase. And by the time they're 5 years old or even younger, they're already able to effectively communicate, effectively express their ideas and understand everything their parents or their siblings are saying to them. That's a perfect accent, right? Then when they're 5 or 6 years old, they finally learn reading and writing, right? This is the natural way. I assume all of you guys learned that way. Look at it again. The way we put this in our kind of system, we call it stage 1 capacity, stage 2 conversation, stage 3 command, right? Capacity, hearing, pronunciation. You need to actually have the physical capacity to communicate in that language. Once you have that capacity, you focus on actually using those sounds to connect and communicate with people through conversation. Then, once you get to that kind of general level of conversational fluency, you want to develop a command. The reason for that is the command part's the reading and writing aspect. The way that we speak, the difference between how I speak compared to a 6-year-old, not that much. But no, it's because you guys are in GW right now. We don't really appreciate how much the way we speak has been affected by reading thousands of books in our, thousands, but reading lots of books and all these kind of things in your lifetime and all this schooling and all that academia you went through. But it's a pyramid, right? This is based off of this. When you read a book, what goes on? You hear someone talking in your head, right? When you learn a language the other way around, you do this first when you're reading, and you hear some, weird dude with an accent speaking in your head, and it's not going to be the same thing. And then now the words kind of flow out of my mouth. once again, it sounds corny, but this is true. Like the reason why it's so difficult to speak. Well, I'm speaking right now, I can speak very easily in English because my mouth and the muscles in my mouth have already been kind of developed, the coordination developed through those pathways. But if I was doing a bunch of random combinations of sounds I've never done before in my life, it's gonna be awkward. Same way, if I wanted to learn how to dance some new dance, and I never did the footwork before, I'm gonna trip up. But if I just do the 1, 2 over and over again a bunch of times, it becomes second nature, right? You know, I learned Portuguese in Brazil, for example, right? And I look very Brazilian. I'm not Brazilian at all, but I look very Brazilian. And you go there, and there's a lot of other people there who are speaking Portuguese, other kind of foreigners, and they're like, oh, olá, tudo bem, eu estou aqui in Portugal, we're Brazil, you know, and people are like, oh, yeah, cool, man, you learn Portuguese, right? And then, like, I go, hey, got to the ball, yeah, that is, and then they're like, oh, this guy, he's like Brazilian, like, and then when they find out I'm American, they don't believe it. They're like, você não é americano, you know, and like, they're like, they don't believe it, and then when I'm like, no, dude, look, and they're like, they demand to see my passport and my ID, and I'm like, yeah. And then you have this effect where the person's like, first kind of confused, and then they're like, oh, wow, you really learned Portuguese. And then you have this kind of feeling of like, you're accepted. You know, the people are touched because, you know, we all have our own backgrounds, we all have our own cultures, and then someone comes and like tries to learn it and goes really deep into it, learns the references and the slang, and they're like, yeah, you're not an asshole, you learn American guys, right? You know, and like, I don't know, you just have a much different experience. And if you haven't experienced it yet, like, once again, I encourage you, I'm sure a lot of you travel to different countries already. What I always tell people is we get so obsessed with like language itself, and honestly, I don't really care about language. I always think of myself as like a polyglot, because I think that word sounds kind of corny, but like, the language aspect of it, to me, doesn't matter. I don't care about prepositions. I don't care about the subjunctive mood, right? And like, these things only serve me as much as they can for me to connect with human beings from a different culture. For me, it's all about people. I don't learn languages, I learn people, right? And that's why I always started with that thing of getting the pronunciation right at first, because I know from experience and seeing people that the more you sound like them, the more you can connect. And that's ultimately our goal here, right? So let that be the kind of major lesson there for those of you who can speak decently enough and people get it, and you're like, why should I really invest more time in training my pronunciation? Well, you can get a much deeper emotional experience in a foreign country, or even here, you meet people. Yeah, so that's my takeaway there. Memory, right? All right, periodic table. All right, what was this thing? This is a list of all 118 known elements, right? Elements of the known universe, right? Everything in this room, myself and yourselves included, is made of some combination of these elements right here, right? Next slide. Same thing happens in a foreign language, right? We call them like phonemes, if you go deep into phonetics. We call them elemental sounds because I don't just focus on the phonemes, but also the diphthongs and other concepts. But basically, these are the elements, the basic elements of each language. So like American English has 42 elemental sounds, Spanish 39, 56 in German. So I mentioned French has 38. And everything you will ever hear a person say in French, for example, can be broken down into some combination of those 38 elemental sounds. Next slide. So why does that matter? You can think about like a keyboard, right? Imagine this being your French or your Swedish or Taiwanese keyboard, and you have, you know, all the 38 sounds. Everything you're ever gonna say is just on this keyboard. Next slide. When you come into the language, you kind of have a broken keyboard. There's always gonna be sounds that are unfamiliar to you, or sounds that are similar to something in English or your native language that are not quite the same, therefore you're gonna kind of gravitate to it. So anyways, you come in with a broken keyboard. And with a broken keyboard, if I had a keyboard like this, I can write emails to you and like, you'd kind of understand, you'd be missing the E letter every time, you're like, oh yeah, it's going the E there. But it would be really annoying to try to understand, right? So this is what a lot of people do. They come into a language in their first day and like, oh, I can't pronounce that, I can't pronounce that, I can't really hear the difference between that, but whatever, let's move on to prepositions and adverbs, right? And they kind of leave their keyboard broken the entire time, and it just kind of drags on and becomes a problem continuously until you hit a brick wall. Yeah. And you know, on a guitar, right, when you remember when you first started learning it, you can learn to play like this note, and you learn to play this note individually and this note individually. But then when you have to play a chord, and you have to put all 3 or 4 fingers down at once, all of a sudden your brain explodes. You have to wake up from a coma 5 minutes later and try to do it, right? And so it's the combined articulation is always a different sensation. And then because the problem is kind of a catch-22 when you're trying to learn a language. If it's an elemental sound or it's a sequence of sounds that's not familiar to you, your brain will actually not hear the difference. So, for example, the Colombian who's never heard English before and only speaks Spanish, and hears someone say sheet shit, if you went inside his brain, inside his ear, he's actually just hearing sheet sheet each time. And that's why when we all have that experience, we learn a new language, when the person's like, no, you're saying su, but I'm saying su. Stop saying su, it's su, su, su. You're like, right? You're saying the same thing, right? So if you go deep into how the brain actually works and when it perceives sound, that's what's going on. It converges sounds that are not relevant in your context and makes them all sound the same. So you need some kind of external feedback source, be it a friend or a teacher. This is the mouth, right? So this is your upper teeth here. So imagine a pair of upper teeth right here, and it's a pair of lower teeth right here. This is the back, this is the throat coming down right here. And every elemental vowel you learn in English or Spanish, Swedish, French, whatever, can be plotted on this vowel chart. And it's important to see its relationship with the sound. So, for example, they asked the question our imaginary Colombian friend asked before about the difference between she and shit, is the E vowel is the most high and most front vowel you can do in your mouth. So if I try to push my tongue out even further past my teeth, I'll start back here at the oo and say ooh. It's still really like this is because basically I've reduced the size of the mouth cavity to just this point right here, and it won't. If I go any further, like a e, and it shuts, right? Now the is sound from sit, fit, lit, hit. This is a slightly lower and more back tongue position. It actually occurs on here. So I go e, it, sit, fit, lit. What you want to do when you develop awareness of your mouth, when we speak, we're moving all these different parts at the same time, and therefore it's kind of like when you try to move like just this finger and then the other fingers kind of move with it. You want to be able to isolate the motions. Your jaw works a lot when you speak, but the jaw doesn't actually affect the shape of the sound. Because the sound comes out here, your tongue is rooted here. The oral cavity is between the tongue and the roof of your mouth. Where your jaw is kind of irrelevant, except your jaw creates space for your tongue to move. So a lot of people, the feeling of moving your tongue down right now is actually the feeling of you moving your tongue and your jaw. So you want to isolate just the tongue movement, and the way you do that is keep your jaw slack like this, and then try to make a ooh sound with that. And it'll be weird, your lips are going to feel weird. Let's go ooh, ooh. Now lower your tongue down without moving your jaw. Ooh, ooh, all right. There's a third thing, like you said before, your lip configuration. The oo vowel, as it happens to be, is a rounded vowel, meaning our lips go like this when we say it. Now keep your lips in like a kind of like this position, like a lazy kind of like position. Keep your jaw in this position. Now try to say ooh ah without moving anything else in your mouth but your tongue. So start with ooh. Ooh, these are all fricative sounds. So try and make that continuous. All right, good. Now you got it. I heard yours pretty clear. What you did is you went to a sound that was a bit more familiar to you, which would have been the velar fricative. So what happened there is you started to reverse engineer it, and then your ear starts to gravitate towards whatever you know. And then you move the back of your tongue. It's a different part of your tongue, different part of your mouth, right? So what you would want to do, what you would have here is a similar issue as someone having the sheet and shit issue, the Colombian was sheet and shit. You'd have a difference between like hit and hit. Hit and hit. Can you hear the difference?
Yeah.
Yeah. So, actually, let's see if you guys can do that. This is very good. I can do some serious like tongue acrobatics after doing this. So the other one you can do is the shh in the library. Shh. The one we just learned. And then this one. All right, so go like this. Yeah, exactly. Cool.
Thanks for coming.
Should we get a picture of everyone together?
Sure.
Maybe just like over here.